I'm really excited, for this conversation. It's one that Joe and I have had a couple times now, but I'm always learning more about the state of business in Louisiana, the state of the opportunity, and some of the terrors, going forward, not just in what's happening with opportunity and job placement and job opportunities. But certainly, to set the stage a little bit, the reason why we really wanted to invite Joe to speak a little bit on this topic today is that there's been incredible investment in the state of Louisiana. Major projects, back-to-back platinum deals of the year in the state of Louisiana with Hyundai Steel and their operations and Meta and an AI data center creating thousands of jobs. And that's a great attraction project, for our community and economic developers. But what we do at Startup North Shore and what we really focus on in a lot of the work is supporting the local businesses that have started here, that are growing here, that are scaling here, and are creating impact from the ground up and from home. But at a certain point, they have to reach these phases of maybe some of the owners get older, or maybe they need significant capital to take that next step. Where's that capital coming from? And what happens when a lot of that capital is coming from out of the state? That's what we're here to talk about, some of the impacts of that in the community, some of the opportunities that Joe and the team at Louisiana Impact Fund have identified, some of the things that gave them reason to spend this time to do something as challenging as raise $100 million, at least the target right now. Yeah. Target. I know. I feel like every time we talk, it's like we're going bigger, we're going broader, we're going at a bigger scale, and we're going to do some incredible things, and they really are. And so, please again, help me welcome Joe to the stage and let's talk about in-state capital and the opportunity.
Thank you, Chenzo. Appreciate it. Thank you for everyone showing up. It's really amazing what North Shore, the Entrepreneurial Week is done here. And last night, I actually had the opportunity to go to the Idea Village 25th anniversary dinner. And someone said something that was really struck me was over the last 25 years, there's been over $2 billion of exits that have come out of Idea Village. And that is a real testament to what we've grown here as an ecosystem. But as Chenzo said, the capital issue is we have a great VC ecosystem. SSBCI has been helpful. And it really has set the stage. There's been several $100 million that has gone to work in the state, in that ecosystem over the last several years. But when those companies reach Series A, Series B, and they become more mature, there's a hole of capital. And they have to go to Atlanta or Dallas or Houston right about the time they're about to hire people, right about the time they're about to build buildings. And so what our fund is designed to do is to stand in the way and say, we're going to invest in the next leg, sort of when businesses are mature, or we're going to do buyout capital for succession businesses. But by way of introduction, Joe Seremet, I've been lucky enough to work in investment banking at Johnson Rice for the last 20 years, and what we specialized in at Johnson Rice was turning little businesses into big ones, so think several $100 million into multi-billion-dollar organizations through the formation of public equity capital. But because we were a little firm and we punched way above our weight class, we had to really focus on building those organizations with management teams, with private equity, and so got our hands dirty, rolled up our sleeves. And so we hope that we can put that skill set to work with Louisiana Impact Fund. So me and my other partner, Josh Cummings, represent sort of the finance function of the fund. And then we have a third partner, Jared Quoyeser, out of Lafayette, who spent 25 years at Intel doing venture work, growth, oversaw a $6 billion balance sheet. So he's more the fun person. I do structuring, valuation, the boring stuff, and he gets to buy these businesses, grow them, think about strategies and ways to monetize them later on down the road. But that's kind of how the team plays out. The mission of the fund, as Chenzo said, it is to keep jobs, companies, and wealth in the state of Louisiana. But make no mistake about it, it is a for-profit fund. And so when we set out to do this, we realized the world needs another generalist, lower middle market private equity fund, much like it needs a hole in the head. There are dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of them. So we were like, how can we be unique? How can we do something different? And what makes the fund different is the network of investors caring about the mission of the fund, and that's how it's going to work. And I'll go into this a little bit more, but really what's special about it is we have limited partners like, Oshner, Blue Cross Blue Shield, B1 Bank, Acadian Ambulance, Gray Stream, the Riley family. Most private equity groups don't sit up here and talk about their LPs. They keep them secret. But we want to talk about them because they're the reason why we're going to be successful, right? They're the reason why we're going to play sort of Louisiana inside baseball. We're going to make sure that these portfolio companies succeed because it's really important for us to select portfolio companies that network of LPs can help. So it's this cooperative approach as opposed to more of a destructive approach.
I think it's going at it from all the right angles. And talking about the SSBCI piece, it's the State Small Business Credit Initiative. We talked a bit about it last year in the conversation, but U.S. Treasury allocated funding many billions of dollars for every state. So every state got a guaranteed allocation of funding to support their local businesses, but the states had to apply for the amount and put together a plan to allocate those funds and distribute them down through into the businesses. And Louisiana was very successful this time around compared to the previous one. We were awarded $113 million from U.S. Treasury. That was up from $10 million, 10 years ago in the last SSBCI funding allocation. So that's $113 million that came to the state. It's an incredible amount of money. It's going to lead to tremendous impacts, but part of the piece that Joe was talking about there is that it's all going towards, say 80% of it's going towards early stage seed investment in startups, which is great because there's, among the many capital gaps in the state of Louisiana, that was a significant one. The other exciting piece of it is that it is a 1-to-1 match. So the state of Louisiana, managed by LED, the state of Louisiana, it's got this, call it $90 million. The way that they're going to invest in companies is by pairing a 1-to-1 match with investment groups into the businesses. LED is not, smartly at least for this investment mechanism, is not doing any of the decision making to determine if your business should receive an investment or not. They're defaulting to the investment fund. The investment fund says, hey, I want to invest $100,000 into your business. LED can match that, so you can open up $200,000 in capital. But that is earlier stage. Once you get past that and you're trying to raise millions of dollars and you grow to that scale, where a tremendous percentage of job creation and wealth creation in the state of Louisiana really is housed, you're not going to be able to tap into that funding. It's not there. It's not available to you. And so you go outside of the state. And I think beyond the capital, the great thing for businesses to look for is active partners, active investors, active acquirers, people who are going to bring more than the money to the table. We always coach entrepreneurs. Finding the right investor is really, really critical. What else can they bring to the table that can help you be successful beyond the dollars and cents? I do want to backtrack a little bit, though, because there's some really mind-blowing statistics that I read on your website about the private equity and M&A activity in Louisiana specifically that scares the crap out of me for the future. This is one of the pieces that scares the crap out of me. That is the reason why Louisiana Impact is on such a great mission. But the capital activity, tell us a little bit about that and its historical track record.
Yeah, I love talking about this, so sorry if I ramble. There's a lot of reasons why we set up to start this fund. We were actually, my partner and I were at an Ochsner board meeting, and we were listening to Pete November talk about population decline in the state and commercial payer decline in the state and what it meant for healthcare in the state, and it was really bad. He painted a really bleak picture. And so we looked at each other and was like, is there a way to do something about this? But first, what causes this? What is happening? Because population decline in a state is a really terrible reason to start a private equity group. But what really upset us and pissed us off enough to get off our butt and do something about this was, look, Louisiana's 46th in population. We're losing population from 2018 to 2025. We lost population, while every other southern state, except for Mississippi is like a good friend. They always make me feel better. Anyway, sorry if anyone's from Mississippi, but every other southern state's gaining population in droves, and we are missing this opportunity. We're missing it, and it just can't stand. So we figured out, why is this happening? Why are we losing population? And is there an investable thesis? So first we tried to answer, is there an investable thesis? So we looked at private equity invested per capita. Louisiana is 46th in private equity invested per capita. close to down near last. There's a lot of reasons. Everyone in this room knows the reasons why that's true, whether it be education, crime, hurricanes, plaintiffs' attorneys. There's a lot of things that are really hard to invest in around this state. But that's why we pulled together the Louisiana network of Louisiana LPs, because we in this room have all underwritten to those risks by virtue of the fact that we raise our families here, right? And if we're not going to protect it, who's going to? Then we looked at the population's demographics, and we have an aging population. Over 48% of our population is over the age of 45. What that means, and I'll go into why that's important, what it means is we think that there's going to be a tremendous amount of businesses that come for sale over the next decade. We think over 1,000 businesses. So underinvested in by private equity, lots of good businesses to buy, sets up pretty well for an investment thesis. Not so bad. But then we came to the point where we did the most research, and this part is a little shocking. So we went back and looked at 10 years of M&A data in the state of Louisiana. I'll give you the last 3 and the last 1. Over the last 3 years, there were about 150 M&A deals done in the state of Louisiana. Only 8 of those deals were done by in-state counterparties. That's accelerating every single year. Last year, there were 53 deals done in the state. Only 2 were done by in-state counterparties. So with an aging population, you can imagine that 52, 53, 50, that's going to 60, 70, 80, 90 transactions a year. If we keep that minuscule percentage intact, we're in real trouble. We're not going to be losing a couple population. We're not only losing population, we're going to be using wealth. And so now we were like, okay, we got to do something about this, because that slide also has an optimistic part of it, right? So of the 150 deals that were done over the last 3 years, half of them were done by out-of-state private equity. So we said, well, that's interesting. All we need to do is cherry pick the best 2 deals a year over a 6-year investment timeline and a 4-year harvest period in our fund by using our LP network to pick the very best ones and having them supported by our LP network. We can truly generate returns. We can put $100 million to work and turn it into $300 million in under 10 years. And we think we can do it pretty easily. So that got us really, really excited. And that right there is kind of why we set it all up and why we got excited. Also, kind of on an aside to that, we took a good hard look at our public pensions in the state, and they manage about $66 billion worth of capital. And they have a private equity allocation, but they invest less than, in many instances, depending upon, according to PitchBook, they invest less than 1% back into our state, into Louisiana funds, and we don't have any emerging managers programs. Whereas Texas has $5.3 billion emerging managers program, Florida has, I think, a several billion-dollar emerging managers program. And what those do is cultivate in-state fund management to build a capital ecosystem inside of a state that's for later stage businesses, right? And so we've brought some of that data to the governor's office, to LED. We've explained to them, and they're like, wow. Susan's like, I use your presentation data in every presentation I make. And which is great, but I think we need to really educate everyone about that and try to move that needle. And what our hope is, we can get from 25 million to 60 million with in-state people. And then eventually, when we prove that our track record and our ideal works, we can include those pensions as partners, because they are very constructive, and we want them as partners, and we think they can be great partners. It's just a matter of proving out if it works or not.
Yeah, I mean, when you think of doing the quick math, it's like 95+% of the businesses, coming from out of state.
Yep.
That is crazy, and the really sad part about it is, as you mentioned, population declining. It's our neighbors, it's our friends, it's our community members, it's our children, it's all of the talented individuals that when I think about raising a child in Louisiana, I want to make sure that they have an opportunity to work for a great company.
Yeah, and not every time does this outside private equity or strategics move these businesses out. I don't want to paint that picture and be black and white about it. But a lot of the time it's true, because what the issue is that our companies in our state are smaller in scale because they don't have that access to growth capital, right? And so the platform companies of private equity groups, the larger companies from Texas or from wherever else, the platforms come in and they scoop up a little business and buy it for its customer list. In fact, do move out the people and do move out the wealth. And so that's a really interesting distinction because it allows us and gives us the opportunity to take that little one and create its own platform. And now we've created runway in the state. Now that business has staying power. It's putting down roots. It's sponsoring little leagues. People are around it, and that is what's going to keep them here when ultimately we have to exit. And that's what our hope is.
Yeah, it's a great mission, and I mean it's something that, as you mentioned, the thousands of businesses that come open. How do you fill that gap in a way that ensures that legacy lives on here, and that opportunity stays here, because those are ripe for the picking. And if those owners and business owners, pass and there's not a real succession plan in place, or somebody that's on their team that can take it, either a family member or somebody that's in the business that's been groomed to run this thing to the next stage, when there already weren't many reasons maybe on that outside capital perspective to keep it there, if it's not a business that's rooted there, that's stuck there, that the industry makes sense to keep it there, that's one less reason why they would pick that company up and move it elsewhere. And so, I think as you're thinking about that succession, I think y'all have some strategies to help prepare people to operate on the other side of this as well, right? When that money capital comes in.
Yeah, we've thought a lot about it because, one of the obvious questions that we get is, great, you're going to buy a succession-based business, but the founder's not going to stick around. And so what are you going to do with it? You're a finance guy. And I'm like, well, that's a pretty good question. What we like to do is we like to look for businesses that have great number twos, that have a plan, and in some ways we can structure around keeping a founder for 2 or 3 years while we find someone else. But the finding someone else is the tricky part. And so that's what we've done recently is we're standing up a CXO training program inside the state with matching dollars from LED. They've been a great partner. And we're going to actually build a school for leaders, for business leaders in the state. So if you're a number 2 or you're a number 3 in an organization that you need some leadership skills so you can take it to the next level and step in, we're going to provide that. And we think it's important to cultivate that next level of leadership because also in that demographic information, about 26% of the population is between 35 and 45. And so there's a nice leg of people who we know we can cultivate into Louisiana's next leaders. And we view that not only from a mission perspective as important, but from a business one too. We want to build a stable of people that we can rely on to plug into businesses and grow them the way we want to.
Yeah, I think it's a really forgotten piece of the puzzle, that's really important is these businesses, moving on to that next leg of leadership, and how do we curate that and cultivate it in a way that gives that business, staying power on the other side. In addition to the LP network, in addition to the inside baseball, finding that operator and training them, for something that's going to look a lot different maybe than their day-to-day currently. But they are qualified and they will be qualified and they are very capable. It's just getting them the type of leadership to be ready for that moment. Do you have any sense of, I know this is probably fairly early in conversations, you have any sense of when this might come together and what sort of businesses, owners, if there's anyone in the room, kind of what stage should they really be thinking about this? Obviously, if they're potentially succeeding, but time frames, is this going to be available in the summer, in the fall? Is it going to take a hot minute?
It's going to take a minute. We're working through the funding with LED now, and we'll probably do an announcement third or fourth quarter of starting it off. The first cohort won't begin until probably next year, the beginning of next year. As far as when to think about it, I mean, I don't think it's never too early to think about succession and putting in place a plan to train someone to take over your business, because a lot of these people, they don't have a succession plan. They have a business that's great, it's been in business for 20 years, but the kids don't want to run it, they don't know where to go with it. So it's always good to succession plan with your existing employees and give them an outlet and give them the tools and leadership ability to do it. So always, never early enough, really.
No, that's a lot of the conversations that we often have with, a lot of the businesses, a fair amount of them in some of the programs that we run, they're earlier stage, they're getting started, they're and even at that moment when they just have an idea, constantly coaching them to think about what is your long-term exit strategy, if you have one. And if you don't have one, you need to have one. And be thinking about that, because it's an important piece of the longevity of the impact that you can have and the responsibility that you owe to your employees and to your staff in the long term is to be planning for that and ready for it And from a succession planning standpoint, shameless plug, Arena Collective is a fantastic law firm right here in Covington that does this work. Shout out, Lauren. But certainly be thinking about it. Don't put it off. Oftentimes, business owners don't think about it or won't spend the time to think about it and put it into work until it's a bit too late. And then tragedy can occur. And we want to avoid that at all costs. So when you're thinking about, let's think about the businesses that feel like the right fit for an investment from Louisiana Impact Fund. Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about some of the thesis. Maybe there's industry focus areas, some bare minimum, earnings that they have to be hitting.
Sure. So from a size perspective, right now, like I said, we're at a $25 million fund, and we're building an airplane while we fly it, and so we're trying to add more and more capital. But eventually, what we'd like to scale to is have the ability to invest in businesses that are $1 to $8 million of EBITDA. So think check sizes between $3 and $25 million. You can obviously drive a truck through that, but on the higher end of that, we have to be very convicted, and that would be at a $100 million fund. But what's interesting as well is our limited partners have said that they will do co-investments, so we can flex up on checks if we want to. As far as the thesis around what we're doing goes, or the industry specific, the industries that we're focused on, it's the best of what Louisiana has to offer. A lot of people ask me, they're like, well, pick a vertical, like what's your specialty, what's this, what's that? You can't look at it like a regular private equity group, because it's not. The advantage, the way we make money for our investors is the network, right? And so what we will do is find businesses that are, of course, the best Louisiana has to offer. So think of all the things that are going on from a construction perspective right now, whether it be LNG or factories or data centers. Also legacy businesses, advanced manufacturing. So there's a lot of businesses, but it's really when we select a business, we first go to our LP network and we'll say, okay, so I'll give you an example. So we found a medical injection molding business. It was a great business. It was run by a husband and wife duo, super smart, been in business 20 years, approached by private equity for decades. Didn't want to, they were about to sign a contract. There was going to triple revenue, triple EBITDA. Didn't talk to anybody else. Just came to us, didn't run a process because of our mission, which was pretty instructive of how it's going to go. But and that's a situation where one of our LPs, Ochsner, would definitely use their product, right? And so you go to Ochsner, you say, would you be willing to use this product? Is this something you'd use? If the answer is yes, okay, sign a contract. Then we go to LED and we say, is there the ability, LED, to write, is there tax credits, incentives, or anything else we can do to juice our returns in this investment? Yes, okay. So now we have a situation where we're going to provide a growth equity check. It's going to triple EBITDA. Ochsner gets a great investment in the fund because they're in the fund. They get a great vendor. Obviously, the manufacturing facility gets to grow jobs and grow revenue, and they get an equity check. And then the state gets to say that they provided tax and credits and incentives to grow employment. Now everybody wins, and the fund wins. And that's exactly our strategy, right? Like that's how the whole thing will unfold, hopefully over and over and over again. And what we need is to grow the network larger and larger. We've done a great job with the 25 million. We're really proud of not only the people who are in it, but also the geography, which is all over the state. We don't want to necessarily pigeonhole ourselves to one or two regions. But we're super proud of that, but we need to expand it because the power of the fund is only as powerful as the network itself and how broad and big it is.
And individuals can be limited partners as well, right? Not
Absolutely.
Just businesses.
Absolutely. Individuals can absolutely be limited partners. We encourage it. We would like them, to have a strategic fit, whether they be founders or business owners or entrepreneurs. We want all of them in, and everyone's welcome to do so. We do have a minimum check size, but we're willing to relax that in certain circumstances where it's strategic.
Awesome. So, my challenge, for folks is twofold. Build an incredible business that creates real impact for the community and creates jobs, it creates wealth, creates opportunity, and make it a place where you think when your child goes to apply to get a job, it's a place that you would be proud if they worked at. Build your company that way, build it to be successful, sustainable, and be thinking about your scale, succession planning, and how we can help Louisiana Impact Fund be successful beyond this mission. how do we help more businesses stay here? It's incredibly important to the state of Louisiana that we go from 46th to definitely not 50th, but maybe with the right trajectory, we can get up to 30 and then 15 and to number 1 eventually. But the mission that y'all are on, the vision that you have for it, the stresses that are on the state and the opportunity that presents, I think looking at it from the fear and turning that into getting out, getting active, and turning it into an opportunity for everybody to win, that everybody win mentality is going to really prove to be impactful for our people and for our state. So on our last piece, any parting messages, any pieces of advice, words of wisdom for the group here today?
No, I think what you said is very well said. I mean, as you're thinking about growing your business and preparing to access that next leg of capital, I think, obviously, by the way, your AI presentation, it was great. It was so functional and so easy to understand. And I think it's important because when you're trying to access capital, you should leverage as much AI as you possibly can because you come off as way more professional. We're looking at a business now that we really ultimately wouldn't otherwise look at. It's a little too early stage. But because they took so much time to prepare and the materials were so well thought out and they were so sophisticated with all of that and leveraged all those AI tools, we're thinking about doing something that would be uncharacteristic for us. And so I think that's an important message to take as you're sort of thinking about scaling your business. You're thinking about taking it to the next level, or you're at the stage where you're going to be doing a series A, B, or C. And obviously, we'd love to talk to you then too.
All right. Well, thank y'all. Thank you, Joe, for coming out. Thank you for the mission that you're on. Please help me give them a round of applause. They're really doing incredible work.
Thanks. Thank you very much. Appreciate the time.